welcome to Star Wars Spelt Out. I'm your host, Josh Chapman, and today I'm in the home studio. I'm kind of locked in. I'm a bit bunkered down. I'm homesick at the moment, and I can't leave the office or the home studio because we've got a cleaner coming through cleaning our house, which is another story we might get to. So I put out a little SOS, a distress call to say, somebody help me out. Somebody help me pass the time in here. And I threw up the old bat signal, and our good friend Emily Lind came to the rescue. How you going, Emily?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me on.
I was so good. I've thrown out the signal. I've been sick for a couple of days, and a couple of times I've thrown out hey, I'm just home if anyone wants to podcast. And I've got a few sort of people we've made plans to come on, and for whatever reason they haven't been able to line it up, and I've just sent messages like, hey, I'm free now, and they're like, oh, this happened or this happened, and it's very unlikely that you send a message out and then 5 minutes later somebody puts their hand up and is ready to roll. So good work on that one.
Yeah. I was just sitting watching Queer Eye on Netflix, so I figured I could do something slightly more productive with my time at least.
Push pause for 45 minutes or so and get back to it. That's not the same dudes from ages ago, is it? That's like new dudes.
It's new dudes. Yes. Yeah.
One of the guys on the original one became like a celebrity in Australia, like where celebrities go to die. So they sometimes they'll end up in Australia and they'll still be famous. So I think it was like Carson from the first one. Is it the blonde guy? I don't know.
Oh, the fashion guy, yeah.
Yeah, so he started turning up in like commercials in Australia, and then he would be at like our racing carnivals and things, and he's like the sort of a quasi-celebrity still in Australia.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, it's weird. So for every sort of Australian that we manage to break overseas, like your Mendos and your Hemsworths, that we just get all these celebrities from the early 2000s who just end up on our television screen still.
Yeah, I feel like we're doing slightly better in that deal.
We only send our best and brightest over, Emily. Some of our garbage just stays here where it belongs. So I had your co-host Brittany Brown on a week or two ago before, I think it was the day or the 2 days before the big 100 Canto Bight was recorded, and that's been put out. That epic, I think was it 2.5 hours that ended up being?
Yeah, I think about that.
Was that the longest you've ever done?
I think it's pretty close. I know the episode I did with Hawes was also like up there.
Oh, well, if the great man talks, you just let him go,
Yeah, I just wanted to talk to I will talk to Hawes for as long as he lets me talk to him.
I know. Sometimes I sort of, I try to keep these under an hour all the time just because that's sort of my optimal podcast listening thing. But even though I end up, if motivators usually go close to 2 hours, I'll listen to them. If you guys go over an hour, I'll listen, or I still end up listening to these long ones anyway. But when I do get people like I've had Halls, I'm like, I probably should just keep going. Like, who cares? It's not like the podcast police are going to come and say that you're not abiding to your own stupid rules.
True. I mean, it's not like you have to fit your network time slot.
Yeah, exactly. Like, hey, you're running over. Hey, you're running into the Canto Bight time. They're on the other side of the world ready to start, and you've gone over and you've just messed the whole thing up. Now, so how does it feel post 100? Does it feel like you're starting from one again, or are you just sort of continuing on as normal? Has it changed you?
No, I think we went right back to not talking very much about Star Wars and me berating Brittany for movies that she hasn't seen.
Oh, yeah. No, I saw a really great exchange online yesterday, because I think I might have even, because you sort of put a thing saying, what movies should we make Brittany watch? And I think I actually said, you should get her to watch some Monty Python stuff, just because I thought it would be so...
that was you.
Yeah, that would be so baffling to... You know what I mean? Like, I just know it would break her brain with no context watching something like Holy Grail or Life of Brian or something, and just going like, what is this? But didn't she sort of feel like she needed to learn the backstory or something before she could...
We get into it in episode 101 when I ask her if she's seen when I've seen it, and then it leads to a whole thing where I honestly thought, I wasn't quite sure, but I was hoping that she was fucking with me, but then it turned out that she wasn't.
It's like the Marvel universe. You don't need to, know what happened to these characters here to get here. Oh wait, I can't wait to see that. I would love to. I'd love to be sitting next to Emily while she's just watching like Meaning of Life or something, and just like going, "What is going on in this thing?" Too good, too good. Now, Star Wars news stuff. It's kind of there's kind of news, but it's not really news, is it? Like it's kind of like, hey, there's a comic book, or there's a red stormtrooper, or it's nothing major, is it? Is it stuff that's sort of getting you excited, or is it just kind of like, come on, let's get to these damn movies?
I mean, I was a little bit disappointed with the news that we got out of Comic-Con. Like, I knew we weren't going to get a big panel or anything, but I was hoping there'd be like a little bit more on the publishing side. Or like something super cool. And I know people are excited about the Rise of Kylo Ren book or whatever it's called, but I don't read the Star Wars comics, and that's not a story that I'm particularly hyped for.
Yeah, I do read the comics, but I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting, I guess. But I suppose I was also like, oh, okay, well, if they're putting it into a comic before the movie comes out, there's probably nothing particularly significant in it then. You know what I mean? Like if there was some massive revelations or anything like that, it would probably be in the film. It just feels like it's going to be, Kylo destroys the temple, takes his mates with him, and then they all dress up in goth costumes and something. I don't know. Maybe there's more to it than that, but I don't know. I kind of feel like if you're putting it out in a comic before the movie comes out, you're not really dropping any bombshells.
No, not to like significantly change things in any way. Like there could be some cool information in there that's nice backstory, but it's not going to be anything that you need to know going into the movie or that changes your whole perspective. No. I think they're obviously saving all their big stuff for the films and things. Yeah. So I know some people were excited. It'll be fine. I'll have a read of it, and it'll kind of go on, I guess, and we'll get a little bit more information going in, but and then sort of Red Stormtrooper, I was like, oh yeah, I guess it looks cool. I don't know, I felt like they could have, like we already saw the photos of some of the cooler new characters. I don't know why they didn't make an action figure out of one of them. Like Kerry Russell's character, I thought would have been perfect. Oh yeah, if you get her in her like her Rocketeer costume. Yeah, Zori, was it Zori Bliss or Zari Bliss? Like she's got a really cool costume, Episode 9 character. I just feel like that would have been such a hotter figure. I mean, I guess at the same time, I'm like, oh, well, cool, because if it's a Comic-Con exclusive, maybe it'd be hard to get next time, because I probably like to get her on the shelf. But yeah, I don't know. Red Stormtrooper, I guess, cool. I guess it's cool. It's cool, I guess. Look, I think it's a cool-looking Stormtrooper. I like some of the detailing in there where it has like the... I don't even know the texture to it. Yeah, the rivets. Yeah. It's like it's very 3D printed kind of design, isn't it? It's like that really precise. Oh yeah. It's kind of, it feels like they've probably had to use a 3D printer to get those kind of angles and things. Like it'd be really hard to reproduce, I reckon. If you're a cosplayer, you're probably looking at going, oh my God, like how am I going to do this in my shed? Vacuum form that? Yeah. Someone will try. Yeah, I don't like the Sith Trooper thing. Is it a cool title? Is it related to the Sith? I don't know. It's impossible to tell, not knowing what it is, whether it's cool or not. Yeah, because it depends what they do. Yeah, because that could be it could be really bad, but I have enough faith in them at this point where I'm like, okay. There's got to be an actual reason there, and it's not just a thing that they thought sounded cool. Yeah, because I mean, the instant thing people go like, "Oh, well, they're the new guards, Palpatine's new guys. Palpatine's back. These guards," and I'm going, "Well, I don't really buy that just because they're first order designs as well. So you feel like they're a spin off of the First Order, just from a design point of view. They're based off that First Order Stormtrooper. So it makes you feel like, all right, well, they're obviously a First Order deal. I don't know. We don't know what Palpatine's deal is yet, but it kind of feels like it's coming from within the same army. And then they're all over that leaked poster that came out about 6 months ago as well. So
I don't know. Whether it's just a cool name, they're just trying to sound tough, or if it's a Kylo thing, maybe Kylo's getting deeper in the bad stuff. He's just like, you know what? I was saying kill the past, but I want to explore this Sith thing a bit deeper. I'll get my own Sith boys, and I'll just start calling things Sith left, right, and center because I can, because I'm in charge.
Yeah, the thing with the Palpatine thing is, I just can't imagine that Palpatine would be, back in such a way that he could be having stormtrooper uniforms manufactured.
Like that's the first thing he does
secret.
When he gets up. He's like, I'm resurrected. Now let's talk about the designs for my new troopers. Now I've had a lot of time to think about this because I've been sitting around doing nothing for 3 movies, and I've got some very nice design points here, and I really like what you did with those guys, and I want a bit of this, but I want them red, okay? Because my guards were red. That's very good. It just, I know what you mean. I feel like it's a first order thing, and I don't know. Maybe they're just throwing it around to be tough. I don't even think Palpatine would, like, he had his own guards when he was a Sith and he didn't use the term Sith. But I guess he was still kind of, I don't know, did he advertise himself as a Sith when he was Emperor? Or was that still on the down low?
I was under the impression that was still like on the down low. I feel like do most people know about the Sith?
Well, I think they knew that Vader was a Sith. I'm sure they kind of acknowledged that Darth Vader was a Lord of the Sith, and people seem to be okay with that. Well, not okay with it, but they're like, what we're going to do. But yeah, I'm not sure if it was ever sort of acknowledged that Palpatine was a Sith Lord, or whether he was just sort of, because he kind of goes that thing where it's like, oh, I've been disfigured by the Jedi. This is why I look weird, and I'm still the same guy.
Because I was never entirely clear how obvious the Emperor's evil was in terms of what the wider galaxy population thought. Because even like in the in the Leia Princess of Alderaan book, there's all this talk of like the propaganda that's out there about him, and like when you see hollow vids of him giving speeches and stuff, he doesn't look like he actually looks like.
Because there's that, isn't it in the Rebels? Have you seen all of Rebels?
No, I've seen like 3 episodes of Rebels.
I think in the finale of Rebels, Palpatine comes back. Oh, there's a bit where he's like, they're in this weird chamber thing. He's communicating with Ezra, is trying to tempt him with something or other, and he's presenting himself first as Palpatine, but he looks more like normal Palpatine, like Senator Palpatine.
Yeah.
And he's kind of looking presentable, and then he kind of flips and he's like, I'm Emperor, like I'm kind of going, oh, maybe that is, like maybe that's how his public persona, like he sort of, puts a bit of makeup on, puts a wig on, gets sort of dolled up for his public appearances. And then, when he's at home feeling comfy, he just sort of lets it all hang out.
I think most of the galaxy is just like the dude in charge.
Yeah, because they kind of talk about, like, in the very first Star Wars, your boy Tarkin sort of talking about, like, I've just got word for the Emperor that the Senate's been abolished, and the remnants of the old Republic have been swept away. So it means for pretty much the whole chunk of his tenure, he's still like the Senate still operates one way or another. Like, he's still the head of the Senate. Like, it's still that's how he kind of maintains control, I suppose. So you still think he's going to have to front up for work every now and then and address the people and let them know that what's going on.
Yeah.
I don't know. I still can't fathom how he fits into this last film. It just doesn't. I just really hope it doesn't suck.
I'm excited, but man, I'm worried about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I know it's weird because I think I can't remember who was talking. It might have been Struthers or one of those people kind of going, if you told me that these things that happened in the film, like something like, just to my face before it happened, in the case of Last Jedi or something like, Luke projects himself and someone told you that before, you'd be like, I don't know about that, and then obviously when you're in the film and you're sort of watching it the first time, you get sort of swept away with it, and you go with it. It's a lot easier to accept. So that's the thing, if somebody came up to me and said, "Oh, look, I know for sure that this is what Palpatine's doing," I think no matter what they said, I'd probably go, "Ooh, that's a bit, I don't know." Like, I don't think there's anything that would telling me to my face that I'd be like, "Oh, great, that sounds like they've really nailed it."
But on the other side of that is, it's very different to be sitting in Star Wars Celebration watching a trailer and you get the laugh, which is this really super cool surprise, holy shit moment. Because you're in the moment so fully then.
Yeah.
But that's completely separate from whatever it's going to be in the movie.
Yeah, that's right. And I think also that you only get the one time to see it for the first time. So if you see it the first time and your hype train, your hype build up is so huge and you get swept away with the film, if you have niggles one way or the other or whatever, once you've seen it that time, I mean, that's the way it is. So you've either got to accept it or you've got to, dig in and complain about it for the rest of your life. So it's sort of one way or another. It doesn't, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter. It's like it's happened. You can sit there and be like, well, freaking, I can't believe that Palpatine, embodied the spirit of a Wookiee, and then he was a talking Wookiee with Palpatine's voice for the whole film. And God, that was dumb and worst Star Wars ever. And JJ ruined it. But I don't know why I thought that was what it would be. But, but that's what it is. And it's just like, well, it's done now. So I've just got to go with it and accept it. Maybe it's not my favorite, but I've just got to get on with my life. Wookiee Palpatine. Yeah. All right. Why not? I'll buy that.
Just give me the next movie.
Yeah, just give me the next. All right. Well, that's done. What's next? Oh, I've got to wait 3 years. Okay. All right. Well, okay. I suppose I can do that. Yeah, I mean, well, I was talking to Catherine about this when she was on the last episode, just talking about sort of the differences between, Marvel do this panel, and they're like, here's 2 years and there's 10 things coming out in 10 years. In 2 years. And then Star Wars, especially film-wise, we've got sort of nothing for 3 years. Do you get a sense of sort of that works good for Marvel, but I don't want it for Star Wars? Or are you kind of like, in a world where there was 10 Star Wars things coming out in 2 years, I'd roll with it?
Well, I mean, a couple of things there is. One, Marvel, you can't really compare the two just because Marvel, I mean, first of all, it took them a while to build up to doing that many in that close of a time period. But also, the way that comics work is Marvel has this entire universe with, dozens of books and, hundreds of characters to pull from that are already established in one way or another, whether the mainstream audience knows them particularly well or not. But Star Wars, we've had, I mean, pretty much one continuous story.
Yeah. I mean, that is one story. Yeah. They keep kind of poking little extra bits in it, but it is actually one little story, isn't it?
Yeah, so to establish that kind of thing takes time. And I mean, eventually, I don't want it to be quite as sprawling as Marvel, because, I don't even go see all the Marvel movies. I sort of pick and choose. And I think I'd be sad if Star Wars got to the point where I were picking and choosing, well, I'm going to follow this line of movies, and I don't care about this other line of movies.
Yeah. Sorry, Emperor Wookiee. Yeah. Your spin-off is not going to happen.
But if it was like, okay, the Rian Johnson movies are happening at the same time, or at least, switching every other year with a separate line of movies, I think I'd be okay with. Yep.
Yeah, and I guess they because they sort of use these, it's sort of singular character based, isn't it? So they're kind of using singular characters to move one story forward, which is, what they do in comics and stuff. But Star Wars is much more of an ensemble, so it's sort of harder to, so they're using a lot of characters in a condensed period of time, and you're sort of seeing these things sort of spin off in this condensed period of time, whereas Star Wars is more ensemble over a longer period of time. Which is why they kind of come back and they sort of shave these moments out, when you got your young Han Solos or your Rogue Ones and things, where they kind of pick a thing and they reinsert themselves back in into these sort of weird sort of prequel-y things.
Yeah, but I wonder if maybe the Disney Plus live action shows are them sort of sticking a toe in those waters of telling ongoing separate stories.
Yeah. Do you mean for Marvel or for Star Wars?
Oh, for Star Wars. I mean, because Marvel's already doing that, but...
Yeah, I mean, the Disney Plus one's interesting, is it? Because, I mean, like, they've got two stories that they've sort of confirmed. So they've got Cassian and they've got Mandalorian, but they're actually taking place, you know, I don't know, how far apart are they taking place? You know, probably 5 or 6 years apart, I suppose. One just before Star Wars, or 5 years before Star Wars, and one just after Return of the Jedi. So they're actually not that far apart in time, but so much happens in between that time. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's like
the galaxy's a very different place.
Yeah, so it's like you're picking up a story, you know, sort of right before something huge happens, and then right after something huge happens.
Yeah, and we know they're working on a third live action that we don't know what it is yet.
You got any speculations you want to throw down on this one?
I mean, I know Obi-Wan's the one that people always go to. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Obi-Wan. Then again, every time there's a new project, people think it's Obi-Wan, and then it's not Obi-Wan.
Yeah, I don't know. They're waiting for something on that. I don't know. Which is fine. I kind of, the fact that everybody keeps assuming that's it almost makes me want to not mind that they're waiting. Just because I'm like, well, you've kind of got that surefire hit in your pocket. You know, like maybe they're waiting in case they need to, you know, resurrect the franchise or do, you know, get a quick win or something. I don't know.
I want something completely different. I want like CSI Cloud City.
Oh, yeah. So Lando's just sort of there, just like, I don't know, like they find Will Hood or whatever murdered by his own ice cream maker, and he's like, looks like this guy somebody told him to chill out. Yeah, dun, 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 dun. And it's just Lando solving mysteries.
Or I think give Donald Glover a show and have it be him like somehow falling into politics.
Oh, it's gonna be like Veep.
Yeah. I'd watch that.
Yeah, I'd watch that too. With all the swearing as well, that'd be awesome. Yeah, look, there's I guess the thing that's hardest for Star Wars to break out of is genre, really, isn't it? Because like Star Wars is a very particular, and anybody who's tried in the Star Wars universe has basically either gotten fired or had their movie re-edited to be more like a Star Wars. So, you know, like you're the Lord and Millers getting a bit loosey, bit more bringing up the yucks for Solo, and then your Gareth Edwards trying to do the gritty war movie brought back a little bit. So, does Star Wars need a break from its genre to survive, or does it need to? I mean, saga films are saga films.
Yeah. I think the saga films need to always feel like the saga films. I would like to see, like, the Rian Johnson thing be its own thing. I mean, my reservations about them aside, I'd like to see the Benioff and Weiss stuff like do their own thing. I'm hoping the TV shows feel very different. I mean, not just from like the movies, but also from each other. Like I think Mandalorian looks amazing. When we see a trailer for Cassian, I want it to seem like a completely different show.
Yeah, I mean I saw the Mandalorian footage and it looked awesome. Still felt like Star Wars. Like, okay, it was a little bit more slow burn, probably in places, but it wasn't like I was seeing something like I wasn't seeing a completely different sort of thing, you know, presented in a completely different way, I suppose, which is fine. You know, Star Wars is a very good formula that works.
And I don't think it necessarily needs to be like Guardians of the Galaxy versus Iron Man or something, where, you know, or like how Ragnarok was like this completely different like style of movie.
Mm-hmm.
But you gotta give people some more freedom especially when you have this whole universe to tell stories in. So if you're really going to let people, like supposedly Rian Johnson's, doing something we've never seen before in terms of place or time or whatever it's going to be.
Yep.
I hope that means he gets to set his own tone as well.
Yep. Well, it's funny because you mentioned Ragnarok, just because obviously Taika Waititi is directing an episode of The Mandalorian. It would be a shame if they kind of suck the Taika Waititi out of it. Like, if you're going to get him, you want it to be a certain way. Like, would you? I mean, I think I'd be disappointed if I watched an episode of The Mandalorian he directed and I just went, and just because it had his name at the end is the only reason I even knew that it was him directing it. Like, I would like a little bit of off the wall kind of stuff, but does the show lend itself to that?
Yeah, and I guess when you're doing a serialized story, you have to keep some of the tonality across the board. But then I think about like the third season of Twin Peaks, which is, you just have an episode that was all of a sudden the craziest thing you've ever seen, that was like an art movie and bizarre, and then it would go back to like being Twin Peaks, which is always always an off-kilter show. But then there's an episode that's like you're just taking in a completely different place and you're doing this bizarre nuclear bomb imagery for like 15 minutes with this psychedelic stuff going on. There's just music and weird shit you're watching, and then it goes back to telling the story.
It's amazing to think that like David Lynch was considered to direct Return of the Jedi, really, isn't it?
I think out of all those near miss movies, that's sort of the one I most want to be able to see. Like, if you could like pull out movies from an alternate universe, that's the one I would want.
Like, hello, I'm Emily. Here's my membership card to the the interdimensional parallel universe blockbuster video. I'd like to hire out David Lynch's Return of the Jedi again, please. Like, Emily, there's other movies here. This is the 30th time that you're like, yeah, I'm still getting my head around it. Okay, I've got to figure out what's going on in this movie. Why is it 11 hours long? But anyway.
There's this author I really like, Richard Kadri, and he has this urban fantasy series called Sandman Slim, and in it there's this video store where you can rent movies that don't exist. And that's one of the ones he talks about.
Oh, right, that's so cool. That'd just be an awesome Disney Plus show. Just give me that. Just give me the just even if it was just David Lynch talking to the camera for an hour telling about what he would have done. You don't even have to make it. There's just something. All those little stories, all those what ifs are always so fascinating, aren't they? And they're still happening. Like directors get fired and replaced and all this sort of stuff all the time. We still obsess over them and talk about them and stuff. But that's the one, isn't it?
Well, because it's just so hard to even picture what it would be. I can't quite wrap my head around what that movie is.
Yeah.
You see some things like, that Nicolas Cage Superman movie that almost happened. You can sort of go, okay, like, that'd be a Superman. It wouldn't be a good Superman movie, but I know what a Superman movie is, and that would be a Superman movie.
Yeah.
It'd be, but goddamn, what happens if you give David Lynch, one of the most immediately identifiable directors in terms of style, like, when you're watching a David Lynch movie, and it is not what Star Wars is.
I was sick in bed yesterday, and I just had my iPad, and I was watching, have you ever watched Empire of Dreams? It's the sort of mega documentary that was on when the Star Wars movies first went onto DVD, about, I guess it was probably 20 years ago now, maybe, or maybe in the early 2000s. It came with a bonus disc, and it had, which I just picked up at a market for like $2 because I'd lost the original DVDs I had of Star Wars are long gone. I was always bummed that I lost the bonus disc because that was the best bit, because I've got them on Blu-ray now, but this had extras that aren't on the Blu-rays. So I managed to get that, and then somebody's put the documentary on YouTube as well, and it's a really good documentary. It's sort of like 2.5 hours long, going through the story of the original trilogy, and it's mostly Star Wars. It's probably 50% of it, 60% of it is making the original Star Wars, and then they kind of go into Empire and Jedi. And then when they get to the making of Jedi, they sort of talk about Lucas quit the Directors Guild because they fined him for not having the credits up front on Empire. And then he couldn't hire Steven Spielberg anymore because he was in the guild. And so he had to hire Richard Marquand, who was this bloke from Wales, this Welsh director. And it's just really weird because they're just talking about it. I think he's died now, Richard Marquand. But it was sort of going, Richard Marquand wasn't really handling how to do a special effects movie, and then they're just showing all this behind the scenes footage, and Lucas is kind of just standing behind him all the time, like he's kind of there like directing and looking in the camera, and Lucas is like literally standing by, like on his shoulder basically. So I'm just wondering, like, if you hired David Lynch, I don't think he would have been taking a George Lucas standing right behind him trying to make his movie. He'd be like, David, I don't think we should be doing this. Are you gonna call cut soon? Seems like a shut up, George. It's my vision.
Yeah, suddenly, like halfway through the movie, Han Solo is just played by a different actor.
And Harrison Ford is playing somebody else as well. It's so weird. They let Jabba out of Carbonite, and then when he came out of Carbonite, all of a sudden it was Tim Robbins, but then Harrison Ford was playing Jabba the Hutt. It was just really weird. I couldn't get my head around it. And then Jabba the Hutt, played by Harrison Ford, wanted to throw new Han Solo, Tim Robbins, into the Sarlacc pit, and yeah, and that was just really weird. And yeah. Now, I want to talk Attack of the Clones, Emily. Now, when's the last time you saw Attack of the Clones? When's the last time you watched it start to finish?
Probably 5 years ago.
Yeah. I think it was about the same for me, maybe even longer. It was just weird because I was, as I said a few times, I've been homesick, so I was watching the Empire Dreams thing yesterday morning, and then I sat on the couch and I watched The Rock with Nicolas Cage and Sean Connery because I've been wanting to watch it ever since I went to Alcatraz with our friend Catherine when we were in San Francisco, and I was like, I've never actually seen The Rock, I should watch it, and it was on Netflix here, so I put it on. Yeah, good film, enjoyed it a lot. And then for some weird reason, I was just going, I really feel like watching Attack of the Clones. So I got up on the shelf, popped in the old Attack of the Clones DVD and watched it start to finish. And yeah, I think it's definitely the Star Wars film I've seen the least. I think maybe, I don't know. I mean, maybe the newer ones just because they haven't been around as long, or I don't know. Would you say it's the one you've watched the least? Hard to say with the new films.
Well, no, I mean, I've definitely would have, I think, already seen the new film more, except maybe Last Jedi. But for me, like, all the prequels are sort of in that category. I just don't go back to any of them. Yep.
Well, I'd only watched, I watched Phantom Menace recently because I did a commentary track with Catherine and Andy from, which is merged into the same person, from That Geek Pod. We did a commentary track on Phantom Menace. So I'd watched that and yeah, enjoyed watching it. It was, it's cool to watch when you're sort of yakking over the top of it anyway. But yeah, I popped in the old Attack of the Clones and I enjoyed it, but I don't know. It's got a weird film in places. It's got some very questionable dialogue in it. I suppose I'm not really giving any revelations here that people don't really know, I suppose, but it's the sort of notes. I was doing a little live tweet while I was doing it, but the thing that really stood out more than anything is that Ewan McGregor is trying so hard in this film. It is crazy. Like everything he's
Bless
doing,
him.
like he is so wanting to make it work. You know what I mean? Like I think he felt a little stung after Phantom Menace. You know, got a little, people sort of didn't drive on that movie as much because I think he was so excited to be in Star Wars. But yeah, he's just really, really, really trying to make it work. Really trying to make it work. His performance is quite good, although it's really funny when you watch him trying to shout with his Alec Guinness accent.
He tries.
You're a big spell for the Jedi Order. Like he's still trying to sort of hit those vowels and the pronunciation and stuff, but it's all just a bit, yeah.
Yeah, I think it would have been better off for him to just do his own voice.
Just make him Scottish.
Yeah. Like, it would have been a little bit weird, but Scottish is a hard accent to rein in.
Yeah. Yeah, I always found his American accents shonky, Ewan McGregor. Especially probably earlier on. Maybe I haven't seen him. I don't know whether he really does it much. Have you watched Fargo? I think he's been in the Fargo series. I haven't seen that. Apparently he's good in that though.
Yeah, there's something about that show where I think it's been on like 3 seasons now, and I've liked it, but I've never made it through a full season. I've seen the first like 4 episodes of every season of that show.
Right. You're like, well, I've seen enough. I could just go on.
He was good. I don't know. I can't get into it, but he was good.
Yeah. Oh no, I haven't seen it either. I just know that I think he was probably doing an American accent in that. So I just always
because he was doing like the.
Was it like doing like 2 roles or something?
Yeah, and I think he's doing like the Fargo accent.
Right.
I'm trying to remember. Okay. It was a few years ago now.
Is the Fargo accent sort of Frances McDormand's accent in the movie? Is that sort of the...
I mean, I don't know how accurate that is, but it's the accent that people are doing in Fargo.
Cool. Yeah, I've seen the film. I've never seen the show and stuff. But yeah. So I mean, sort of back to Attack of the Clones. Yeah, I mean, Ewan McGregor trying really hard. Hayden Christensen wears a lot of makeup. Like I've got a 75-inch television, and I had it on the Blu-ray right up there on the thing. It's very colorful film actually. Still looks really good. But I guess the way that they've shot it, because it was the first one they shot all digitally, it has this sort of strange sort of feel to it. But yeah, Hayden Christensen looks like he's got a pancake of like Luke in the holiday special amount of makeup on his head. Like he must have just been really pimply or something, maybe.
Maybe. Yeah, he does sort of have a soap opera-y amount of makeup on.
Yeah, like he's sort of a greasy teen. And he is such a creep in this movie. It is so, like, there's a few moments in it. Like, there's a bit when they're sort of Padme's packing up to leave, and they said, "Oh, you got to get out of the capital and stuff," and she's all sort of pissy because she's got to leave and things. And he's just, he's moaning about Obi-Wan, which is, whatever. And then he kind of just, goes up to her and she literally goes like, "Hey, like, stop staring at me." And he's like, "Oh, what for?" And she goes, "It makes me uncomfortable." And he thinks that's hilarious. It's like,
Yeah. Look, I know people really are into that romance. I mean, I think it's just creepy from start to finish.
There never seems to be a point where it clicks over into, you know what I mean? Like, it never seems like there's a moment where she gets on board. Like, he's obviously into her, and he's got this sort of weird adolescent obsession that he's had for however long. Fine, whatever. But there's no earned moment. Like, it kind of feels like, he kind of does the weird sort of thing where he runs his fingers on her back, which is also really creepy. Like,
and she has that line of like, "You'll always be that little boy to me." And I'm like, okay, well, I would think would put paid to any like romantic inklings whatsoever, but
and it's just weird because like he's openly talking about how much he's into her in front of like all the Jedi, when it's like the number one no, and they're all just kind of like, "Oh, don't do that." But let's just send you on a mission with her anyway. Like, what's the worst going to happen, I suppose. it's just weird because the romance never really, it doesn't feel like there's a point where something happens. It just seems like she eventually just sort of gives in, I suppose.
Yeah.
She just kind of, they get a kiss. They have a little smooch on the in front of the lake and things, and then it's kind of weird because I was just trying to think about it because there's a deleted scene where they kind of go and visit Padme's family and stuff, which is fine. But in the context of the film, it's never really clear where they're staying because they're sort of at this place, and there's people waiting on them and bringing them food and things. I wasn't like, are they staying at a hotel or like a resort or something like that? Or just like, she just happens to have this sort of country estate with a whole bunch of staff just waiting for the chance that she might sort of randomly turn up and do things. It's just weird. And it's just, the thing about Star Wars, especially the prequels, it's really weird that they live in a society without like a television. Because everyone's just kind of weirdly sitting around. You know what I mean? Like they go into an apartment, like into Padme's apartment or places, or they're sort of sitting by a fireplace, sort of awkwardly just sort of sitting there.
Yeah, there should be like a holovid player or something.
You feel like they would just be sitting watching Netflix or doing... I don't know what people do in their spare time. It's just weird, the whole way that apartments and housing and stuff is sort of set up. In the original Star Wars films and in the new ones, the pace is much faster. Things happen quicker. There's no real time to sit and breathe. You know, conversations, plots move as the action's happening. But the prequels, the plot moves by sitting around and talking. Sorry, I'm just coughing my head off over here. Yeah, because there's so much exposition that takes place with people just sitting around in apartments on couches and talking and stuff that it's just a lot of awkward sitting.
Yeah, I need like a TV or bookshelves or something.
Something to pass the time. Like, Obi-Wan goes to Camino and catches up with Jango Fett. And there's a bit where he rocks up to Jango Fett's apartment, you know, sort of unannounced. And Boba Fett's there as well. And Obi-Wan saunters in, and you look around his apartment, and there's nothing in this apartment. Like, it's basically spare. I'm going, you got like a 10-year-old kid. What is this kid doing all day? Like, where's his
Xbox?
Where's his Xbox? How do you keep a 10-year-old kid amused while his dad's on site at his work? Like, they just let him roam the halls and things. It's just really weird. But anyway, I mean, I'm poking silly holes and stuff. But, look, you know, jibes aside, there is some very cool stuff. A lot of stuff still really works in that film. The action's really good. I forgot how massive the sort of Geonosis battle is. The arena bit where all the Jedis and stuff turn up is a little bit hilarious. There's some really early 2000s Jedi cosplaying moves going on. If you kind of go back and watch it, there's a lot of sort of people dressed as Jedis who are kind of doing weird jumps and flips and things in the background. And because that was all shot in Australia, I'm like, oh, this is a bunch of Australian extras pretending to be Jedis. It's really weird. If you go back and watch it, like, you kind of don't focus on the principals at the front. You kind of look at all the people at the back, and they're all just sort of whooshing around like they're in a cinema line waiting for Star Wars to open in the early 2000s, late 90s or something. I'd love to know who all those people are. Yeah, it's quite funny actually. It is actually quite amusing, but yeah, I don't know. Attack of the Clones. It's a funny one. It's really, I don't know. I really feel like George was just sort of doubling down. Like, he was just sort of like post Phantom Menace. It wasn't. And it actually has a second writer on the script as well, which I never noticed as well. Like, he didn't actually write the script on his own.
Oh, who was the other?
I'll have to look it up. Let's look up this dude. Because I was, because people always go like, oh, George Lucas needed a script editor, or he needed a, and they're like, well, actually, he did have, like, I think the story was still his. But, let's see here. The old Steele Saunders trick that you don't just talk about it, you bring it up once you've talked about it. Details. Full cast. Company credits, no. User reviews, no. Goodness me.
Jonathan
Riveting
Hales.
Stuff. Ah, great. You're all over it. And what else is...
Oh, boy.
Are you looking at his resume?
Yeah. The Scorpion King.
Oh.
And then a bunch of the Adventures of Young Indiana Jones.
He loved those Young Indiana Jones people. I think that's where Rick McCallum came from, wasn't it? Young Indiana Jones.
And then he wrote like one episode of Dallas.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's just like a couple episodes of TV shows you've never heard of.
What's the last thing that he did?
Attack of the Clones.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think he might not. I don't know if he's still alive.
Oh. Okay,
Well, it doesn't say he died, but he was born in 1937, so he's
Oh,
up
wow.
there.
God, he was old. Gee, that is old. I've got on IMDb, I don't know if you're looking at IMDb, the last thing he's got in here is Rider, Attack of the Clones Special Edition fan film. I don't even know what that is. Oh, it's got one of those really shonky... Oh my God, really, really shonky. I'll send you the link right here, Emily, so you can see this.
I've seen it.
It absolutely is like the antithesis of a fan film cover art, isn't it?
It looks like bad, like low rent wrestling promo art.
You should send this to Chris Fresh, see what he reckons. He would probably take that very personally. Oh
I didn't know like a very low, like a bad, but like like really cheap when you like the really bad like third rung wrestling promo, like the stuff that's happening in somebody's backyard.
Yeah, it's a shocking one. It's because it's got a shirtless dude with two lightsabers in his hands crossing them over. Oh my goodness. So,
the trivia says the film's special effects were done in Microsoft PowerPoint, which is the most amazing thing I've ever read.
Is it a parody? I feel like I need to watch this now. I wonder if it's on YouTube. I wonder if there's a trailer or something here. Let me just... Oh my God! The whole thing is on YouTube, and it's 2 hours 17 minutes long. I can't sit through all of this.
No.
Okay, all right. You know what? I can't fall down this rabbit hole right now, but I'm gonna. I have got the rest of the day off after we sign off here, so maybe I'll go back and have a look. All right, I'll just read the. I think they're trying to be funny, maybe.
Yeah, I think so.
Are they doing like a shot by? Maybe it's like some sort of shot by shot remake, like what was that movie with Jack Black where they remake all the Be Kind Rewind, whatever it is, where they remake.
Oh yeah.
I know there's a term for it. Yeah, I'm not too sure off the top of my head. All right. Anyway. I feel like it might be two and a half. If it's as long as Attack of the Clones the film is, I feel like they must be doing that kind of thing where they just remade the whole thing. But anyway, so maybe that's why the bloke who co-wrote the script for Attack of the Clones got a credit, because they're just like, oh, it's technically just Attack of the Clones remade by a bunch of fans. Good on them. No better use of your time than a podcast, so I'm not going to stand here and go, look at these people wasting their time on their Star Wars nonsense. How dare we look down upon them? Oh dear. Now, before we kick off and finish off, Emily, Rise of the Skywalker. What's your opening night plans? Are you and Brittany going to make it happen to watch it together, or logistically that's a bit impossible, do you think?
Yeah, I don't really have any like vacation time left from work. Cause it's after celebration, and I don't know.
How much vacation time a year do you get in America?
A lot of places are 2 weeks.
Yep.
But also, I don't know, like I can't really spend, $300 on a plane ticket to go see a movie.
That's very true. Very true. Especially if you get Palpatine's essence in a Wookiee at the end, and it's just this completely baffling, and you're like, I've spent $300 to watch this. So what will likely be your opening night routine? Have you done the same thing the last couple of films, or is it just completely where you're at a certain time and who's around?
No, the last couple I've done at the Alamo Draft House, which is one of those like they serve food and cocktails like in the theater, yep. Like your seats have a table in front of them. Or a couple of times I've done IMAX.
Do you usually roll solo, or do you have a little crew?
No, I like to go. I like to go by myself. I love going to movies by myself.
Oh, me too. I love it so much. Have you ever had the whole cinema to yourself or anything?
I've gotten pretty close, but never the whole cinema.
Yeah, same here. I remember I went and saw the second 300 film, Rise of the Spartans, whatever it was, and I saw it at 9 a.m.
I forgot that existed.
I saw it at 9 a.m. 9 a.m. in the morning in Melbourne. It was when I'd moved back to Melbourne, and I was living with Kat at her place. I just moved back from London, and I didn't have a job or anything. I was just taking the summer off, and she had to go to work. And I'm like, oh, well, I'll come into work with you. And I was just like going, oh, well, I'll just go to the movies. Because if you go to the movies at 9 in the morning, it's dirt cheap. And that was on. And there was a cinema near her work, so I just went into there, and I sat down, and there was nobody in the cinema until about a minute before the movie started, I think. And then these two dudes rolled in. I'm like, so close. So close. Like, I don't know what I would do. It's not like I'm going to take my pants off or anything and get really comfortable, but I do like the idea. It just feels like you've got a really big lounge room or something, don't you? Doesn't it?
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, that'd be the dream. That'd be the dream. Yeah, I used to, when I lived in London, there was a cinema opened across the road from me, which was amazing. A cinema called the Hackney Picture House in Hackney, where I used to live. And there was an amazing cinema. I was a foundation member there, and they would do, if you were a member and you went to a movie before sort of, I think it was 2 p.m, you could go for about £3, which was nothing. So when I was contracting, I'd have periods of time where I was between jobs and stuff, and I'd just have time off. So I would just go to the movies or just go see anything because it was like £3 across the road from my house, just roll up. Yeah, I used to love it. I don't understand why people, like, I've got friends who are like, oh, I can't go to the movies by myself. That's just weird. I can go, no way, it's the best.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about what if other people are enjoying the movie or not.
No, I've certainly never done Star Wars. I've definitely done Star Wars on my own, like on the repeat viewings and things, but never on an opening night. Sort of always had like a bunch of people and stuff. But yeah, it's certainly a nice way to. It would be a nice way to sort of just watch it and take it in without sort of. I mean, I guess you could still be distracted by all the other people there on opening night going crazy anyway.
Yeah, but that way you still get the like opening night excitement. But I can just be watching the movie. Yeah,
that's true. That's true. Well, we're lucky in Australia now these days that we get it a little bit earlier than everybody as well. So it's a little bit easier spoiler wise to stay off the radar and stuff. We don't have to sort of worry too much, which is good. I'm really just hoping this last one doesn't get spoiled. I've been pretty good. Have you got anything spoiled the last few going in, like that just happened that you couldn't avoid, that just going in like, damn it, I didn't know that before I went in?
No, I don't think I've had anything major spoiled for me since Phantom Menace. Like, not like huge things.
Was that Qui-Gon's death?
Yep.
Yeah, I think everybody got that. Was it the soundtrack that did it?
The thing is, I didn't see the friggin' soundtrack. I didn't know about it. And it was the day before the movie came out, and a friend of mine turned around to me in math class and said something about it. Like, just like, no introduction, no, like, did you see this thing that happened? It's just like, boom. And I, like, didn't talk to him for, like, a week. I was so pissed off.
So were they telling you just like, hey, I heard that da-da-da-da-da, or they were like, Emily likes Star Wars, I'm going to F with Emily?
No, it wasn't like, it wasn't
like Brittany ruining Spider-Man for you?
It wasn't vindictive or anything. It was just a casual, like, oh, like, what do you think the scene's going to be like when Qui-Gon Jinn dies? And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, what the fuck?
You're like, hey, man, this is going to be the greatest Star Wars movie that ever was and ever will be, and you just ruined it for me, and this is it. I'm never going to recover, and thanks for nothing. Oh, man, I feel sorry for you. Oh, I hope you can find some forgiveness in your heart for that person. Like, I'm sure you've forgiven Emily for spoiling Spider-Man for you now as well. Sorry, Emily, Brittany.
No, yeah, I mean, well, mostly I honestly didn't care. I just thought it was hilarious.
It's fun to make her squirm.
I cared a little bit, but not enough to actually, like, be mad.
So have you actually seen Spider-Man since then?
No, I was going to, and then I just didn't bother.
It'll be out on DVD in about 3 weeks anyway.
Yeah.
This turnaround is very, very short. Well, thanks so much for coming on, Emily, and saving me from my sickness, from, being holed up in my little office while some dude goes around, wipes my floors and does stuff. We don't normally have a cleaner. They're just here particularly for this particular reason, if everybody's wondering. They're just living the high life, having people cleaning my house and stuff. If I could, I would, but, let's be realistic here. Canto Bight steaming into its second 100 at the moment. 101 not out, coming up.
It'll be out in a couple hours.
Oh, wow, there you go. Well, that's okay. This won't be out till next week, so there's no juicy spoilers in here. We won't be missing anything. So what else is on the horizon for the podcast? Anything else you want to sizzle, or just keep listening?
Yeah. We're going to be trying to have more guests on. That's something we really want to start focusing on in these next 100 episodes. We are figuring out how to do a commentary with the fact that we don't live on the same, coast. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to figure out a way to do that remotely. That actually everything will sync up okay. But we want to do a Rogue One commentary.
Nice.
And yeah, we're gonna continue to talk about Star Wars and food and sex and other things that we like to talk about.
What more do you need, really? You got the three biggies.
The most important things.
That's right. We're all simple people. We don't ask for much. Awesome. Well, I've enjoyed the first 100, and I'm looking forward to the next 100 for sure. And it's always a pleasure to have you on. So you want to drop them socials?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at EFLind. That's at EFLIND. And you can find the podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Canto Bight Pod.
Nice. And you can find all our stuff on StarWarsSpelledOut.com. T-shirts and stuff on TeePublic. Thanks to everybody who's bought the T-shirts, which has been really cool. I've just sort of been doing them for my own amusement, so it's actually quite nice when somebody actually buys them as well, which is even better. But yeah, and we'll be back next week with another awesome guest, hopefully. But thanks so much, Emily.
Oh, thank you.
Great, and we'll speak to you soon.
Bye.